Live from the Clarity from Chaos studios, heard worldwide, it's Dave Campbell. On every episode, Dave and his guests explore, discuss, and work on solutions to some of life's biggest challenges. So, if you're ready, be prepared to be enlightened, amused, and even shocked by what you hear. And now, the real, the authentic, the one and only Dave Campbell.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Clarity from Chaos. I'm your host, Dave Campbell. On this episode, we're going to be examining the political corruption in this country and the need for accountability of those we elected to represent us. In addition, we're going to be discussing the ongoing issues we are seeing in our sanctuary cities. We have an inspiring guest, but first I want to talk about the need for us as a country to become a lot more spiritual. As you've heard me state, the problems we currently face in this country are not technological, they're not economic, they're not environmental, and believe it or not, they're not political. We have lost our moral compass because to a large extent, we no longer are tethered to the Almighty, and we have allowed evil to come into the forefront of our country. It's on display everywhere you look. Modern day propaganda has everyone convinced that they are the center of the universe and what they want or don't want is what's all important. Everything revolves around the individual. Basic right and wrong does not enter the discussion if it doesn't fit that individual's paradigm. This brainwashing has been going on for at least the last 50 years and has now infected several generations. It is my belief that we are at the point that an intervention is needed. That intervention is represented by first recognizing the ongoing effort to destroy Christianity in this country. Second, to reacquaint yourself with the church, whichever church that may be, and the Bible. We need to come together and have faith in God and his ability to combat this evil. And the third intervention point, and the most powerful one, is the use of prayer. Belief is what is needed. Discard your negative thoughts and develop positive ones. And as we strengthen our spiritual foundation, we must also address the practical challenges facing our communities, one being accountability of our leadership. To help us navigate these complex topics, we are joined once again by my friend and someone with deep expertise in the field, Mr. Michael Letts. Michael is the founder and CEO of Invest USA. Invest is a national nonprofit organization that is helping to provide active shooter vests for our law enforcement personnel across the U.S. And to date, they have provided north of 17,000 vests to first responders and raised more than $7 million in donations for that effort. Welcome back, Michael.
Well, David, it's always a privilege to be with you. We thank you for the opportunity. Loved your introduction. If I might expound on one thing that you said, I make a plea to all the churches. Quit being social clubs. Start standing up for the truth and for righteousness. I don't care whether you have 50 people or 50,000. It's time that you start telling people the difference between right and wrong, because it's the churches that lost their moral authority generations ago, and their congregations just reflect what they hear in the church. It's time we get our churches turned around, David.
I 100% agree with you. They need to put their big boy pants on and start connecting the dots for their congregation and start talking from the pulpit to the issues that we're facing, and not just what's comforting to them or what satisfies the woke culture.
Correct.
That's out there now. I want to start first, though, Mike, with talking about there's been a lot of chatter about replacing Pam Bondi. Is that still going on, or is that quieted down some?
No, it's still definitely there. One of the things that President has been very concerned that we have not gotten through and made sure that we've started holding people accountable. Pam is ratcheting it up. I'll give her credit for that. Okay. But there is a long way to go. And I think right now it's kind of like if you're out on a lake when it's froze over, you're not sure if your next step's going to crack the ice or not. And she's walking very gingerly. But I make every suggestion to her, get in there and do the job, let the results fall for themselves. So the job is that even though we have a corrupt judicial system, you should be leading the way in identifying the corruption and asking American citizens who serve as jurors on these federal grand juries to follow their lead.
Exactly.
Get indictments. That you do your job, you can't do anything else. But when you're not doing your job, the whole system falls apart.
Exactly. And I think, and we'll talk about the activist judges in a few minutes, but they have turned into such an impediment to just the basics, the right and the wrongs, and they've become ideologues to this. And I just want to say, for lack of a better term, Mike, evil.
They are.
Because you can't tell me that some of these judgments are based on justice or legal representation or anything else. So some of this stuff is so off the wall that I just can't put my head around it.
Well, you're right. They don't have any basis for law. There's no rule for law. There's no precedent in what they're doing. Basically, they're pulling a page out of their own political ideology and trying to put a couple of legal terminologies in there to make it sound better and issuing a ruling. That is not what the judiciary is for. The judiciary does not make a law. It interprets a law so that the law enforcement executive branch can enforce a law. And then what they're doing is, instead of interpreting the law, they're trying to create law. And it's got to stop.
No, absolutely. And what I'm really disappointed in is the fact that Congress has not stepped in and followed through with the impeachment of certain judges on the federal level, because they absolutely have the oversight on these individuals.
Correct.
And they could, and I'm firmly convinced, if you impeached several of these judges, word's going to get out, and just their own survival, they're going to start maybe tethering themselves back the other direction.
Well, you're exactly right. The Speaker of the House, Mike, came out today and said, he was in favor of the holding federal judges accountable in impeachment.
Right.
And I think that was a great statement. But my point to Mike is, why didn't you do that a year ago? And don't tell me. I think it's what I'm hearing across the country, David. And, of course, we're all over the country handing out vests,
right,
consistently. And people walk up to you and say, look, we love what you say, but tell the president, quit talking, start acting.
Right.
We want to see action. And that would be my same response here. Mr. Speaker, if you really believe that we're going to impeach judges, then why are you not leading the way and putting that you are the Speaker of the House, which means you control the agenda? That should be placed at the top of the agenda for immediate action. I don't see that.
Just get the hell on with it, right?
Exactly.
They sit here and they give the absolute appearance, Mike, that they're part of the cabal and they're not part of the solution. And I'm sorry, until they start acting in a positive way to hold these individuals accountable, that's the way they're going to be viewed.
You're right.
They're on the same, as far as I'm concerned, they're on the same milk stool as all the rest of them, right?
I would agree.
There is no difference in any of them until they start showing their integrity and their character and their willingness to do what's right. Because right now, all they're doing is just playing patty cake with each other.
Yes.
It's just like watching this travesty of a hearing with Jack Smith today. I mean, that was an absolute. I mean, of course, the people on conservative radio were going, well, they really got after him. I listened to the whole damn thing, and they, save for a few people, they just danced around stuff, and they allowed him to dance around stuff. And what they should have done is called the guards in, put him in handcuffs, and taken him off to a jail cell and held him in contempt.
That's correct.
That's what they should have done. But they just, it's just like with Bill and Hillary, we're going to hold them in contempt. So who the hell cares? They held, who was it, Eric Holder in contempt. What did that mean? That didn't mean a damn thing. He just sat back in California and continues to flap his mouth about stuff.
Correct.
It has no virility to it. It's not like they're dressed in jumpsuits being walked to the bus. That's just not what's happening here. And so I don't understand. I'm sure Trump and hears and empathizes with people as far as action not being taken. But this has got to change. I mean, because it's a reflection. He's out there doing all kinds of great things for us in the country. And the people supporting him, other than, their cabinet, Congress, they're not doing a damn thing. He's going to twiddle around and they're going to lose the midterms, and then we are going to be screwed,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
So
I think it's interesting. Let me kind of comment on some of the things that you said.
sure,
Because, obviously, I have a lot of friends up there on the Hill because I've been up there for a good while. But they all pull me aside. They're all turning on me now saying, you of all people should know that things don't work that way. It takes time. We have to do it through protocol, this or that. I said, you've identified the problem. America is tired of your manipulating the system to benefit yourself and your bank account and to get nothing done for the American people. So when are we going to start having some leadership and some men that will stand up and destroy the system? I'm not trying to tell you to get it accomplished during the system. That's a hopeless request. The system is broken. Quit telling me it doesn't work that way. I know it doesn't work that way. That's why we're asking you to do something different. That is, David, why we get back to the issue that you and I have talked about on your show. I believe the way we break through this is we have to go in discussions with the White House. We have to move forward with military tribunals.
Yeah.
It hasn't been done before. That's the reason why we need to do it.
Yeah.
Yes,
no, I agree.
Tribunals have been done before. That's not a true statement. They have been done before. They've never been really publicized and really pressed. But I will tell you this. I keep telling American people, I don't think we'll have to do many military tribunals. We're not going to have 30,000 tribunals. Just give me a few at the top and watch how fast the system caves in on itself. And it purges itself. That's what we need, David, is somebody to break the mold. I don't want to hear we don't do it that way. That's right. Because you worked a way to make it corrupt and you're working in a corrupt system. Stop it and break the corruption. Yeah.
I think probably if you just did a well-placed dozen,
I agree.
That would not only melt down the moronic Dems, but it would also send a message of such magnitude to the rest of these individuals, like we just spoke about with the judges. I think there would be an awful lot of people that would just get in line. The interesting thing is if you just take the example of they didn't think Trump could do anything with the EU, right? He not only backed NATO over the cliff, but he had the head of NATO calling him daddy. Then he went after Greenland. I'm fully confident at some point in the not too distant future, Greenland is going to be part of our landscape as well. And everybody just sat around saying it couldn't be done. And I heard Rubio make a comment about Trump not paying attention to what people term as impossible.
Right.
Well, this very term about using tribunals to get up and away from what has been the years worth of litigation and so on and so forth. I don't know if people completely understand what a tribunal is, but it's not years. And in a lot of cases, it's not months. It's weeks.
Exactly right.
60
days
weeks
for the entire process to be completed from start to finish. When I mean finish, that means the indictment, the sentence has already been served. Case is closed. It's done with. It's over.
Yep. Yeah. So, I think if you brought like the governor of Minnesota, the congressperson from Minnesota, the attorney general from Minnesota,
Correct.
The governor from California, like I said, there's probably about a dozen people, John Brennan, Mr. Clapper. There's probably about a dozen people that you could stand in front of a tribunal, and I think that would be very interesting. Just the very concept of standing in front of a tribunal, I think would send a message of complete importance to the rest of people. You wouldn't even probably have to finish the tribunal, Mike. Just the fact that they walked them into that tribunal and they had to they had to stand there.
That's correct.
I think that would be worth the admission right there.
There's no question. And people need to understand that this is something we've been planning for a while. We have 30 empty beds at Gitmo. We expanded Gitmo. 30,000. 30,000.
Right.
People have asked me, they said, what in the world would you need 30,000 for? Understand, one person can't accomplish this. They have to have all kind of aiding and abetting all the way up and down the line.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a lot of people, David.
Yep. Well, and that gets me to my next topic that I wanted to talk to you about, and that's the active protesters in Minneapolis. I made the comment the other day, much to the chagrin of the people around me. I said, well, I don't understand why they just don't get water trucks out there with high pressure water hoses and hose these people down. I said, for Christ's sake, at 10 o'clock at night, it's freezing in Minneapolis. You'd have a bunch of ice cubes in the street. That
I love that idea, David.
you wouldn't have to do anything except hose them down.
I don't like much of what happens in Europe because they're so backward in Europe. But that is one thing they have figured out is take fire water trucks and just
water cannons and water cannon the hell down. That would
the end of it. It dissipates the crowd just like that.
Yep. They wouldn't be standing out there. I don't care for how much they'd be unpaid. When it's at zero and somebody's hosing you down with all of that water, you're out of there.
You're exactly right. And that's where we need to be. One of the things that I've had some disagreement with the White House is things have tempered down. I mean, I will give credit where credit's due. We are getting better control over the situation in Minnesota. But I still believe we need the Insurrection Act. I believe.
Oh, I do too.
It's not just because, if we're maintaining control, why do we want to go that far? And I'll tell you why. It's the same thing we talked about in the first part of the segment here. People have to understand there's consequences. There has to be accountability. If we're just simply going to implement and bring in more agents, get people to calm down a little bit and let's continue to move forward, and there are never any consequences for their actions, David, it's going to be worse next time. And then it'll be worse the time after that. You've got to rule with an iron hand when that stuff comes up so that people understand that there are consequences to their actions. And then it won't happen anymore. I think it was interesting. One of the things that I got criticized on the air for a little earlier today was, we have the right to assemble. When you look at the Constitution, yes, the Constitution gives us freedom to assemble, but not the freedom to riot. There's a big difference between peaceful, and that's what it says in the Constitution, is peaceful assembly.
Yeah, I don't see anything. I don't see anything about throwing frozen bricks and bottles and any of that, or hitting or
spitting in officers' face.
No,
that's not peaceful. You want to stand there, David, with a sign. You want to even elevate your voice a little bit, across the river. That's fine. Our Constitution gives you the right to do that. But when you step across that red line, which we have repeatedly let people do for quite some time now in this country, it just elevates worse. Of course, what happened over the weekend? Now you've got protesters in Minnesota carrying long-range rifles. Now, I'm the biggest proponent of the Second Amendment. But when you carry a long-range rifle into what we call a hot zone, you got one or two objectives in mind. Either you're caught in a situation where you're going to have to defend yourself, and God bless you for doing that, or you're attempting to intimidate law enforcement, and that's not going to end too well for you. That happened on Friday. Then, of course, you had them disturbing the worship service on Sunday. So, in other words, instead of escalating downward, it escalated upwards. I know where we have a little difference here talking about within the White House as well. The numbers are down in terms of people that are on the street. I agree that they're down, but they'll be back up in a week or two or less if we don't do something to show.
Or they'll pop up someplace else, Mike.
Exactly.
It may not be Minneapolis. It may be in Ohio or in Los Angeles, right? So it's Minneapolis right now, but we've got to get a handle. We've got to do something with these NGOs that are supporting this crap and money laundering. And we've got to do something with the foreign funding of these protesters.
Yes.
And for some damn reason, I do not understand why the Justice Department either hasn't revoked the citizen, well, that would be the State Department, revoked Soros' citizenship or in his ability to come to the U.S., or the Treasury Department locking down all of his financial transactions in and out of the U.S., or something. I just don't get it. I cannot understand why they can read a quarter from space on the ground and they can't track this money down where it's coming from and who's doing what with it. That's just
They have the information.
Oh, I know they do.
Now we're getting back to the first thing we talked about when we first started to talk about Pam Bondi. We have the information. And look here, very simple. Let me make it very easy for you, Pam. Get an indictment.
Yeah.
Turn it over to the U.S. Marshal's office, who can coordinate with the White House, and we'll go pick him up in another country, just like we did Madera in Venezuela.
Yeah,
He will be a
exactly.
known fugitive. We have shown we have the capacity to pick up anybody anywhere in the world if we want to, and let us go pick him up, and
Yeah,
then let him stand trial in this country. That
yeah,
will shut down a tremendous amount. You talk about the NGOs. Here's what's some interesting facts, David. There are over a couple thousand NGOs in California alone.
yeah.
And those NGOs are all liberal based. Those are the ones that you see. Here's what Congress did: they established programs that they made them so are easy to manipulate, so that they can get kickback, so that people can defraud.
Sure.
And
That's why
then
I
you've
said it's
got
money laundering.
yeah, I think you've got
Yeah.
thousands of NGOs. That's just California. They got them in every state, and then
Yep.
they make all over the place. They've got plenty of conduits as to how to rob us blind. They're
Yep.
doing that now, David. How long do we have to sit back and be taken advantage of before we do something about it?
See and that's what confuses me, Mike, is the fact that those NGOs all have EIN numbers, are all registered with the IRS. All you have to do is Scott Bessett call up the individual running the IRS and start pulling these 501 EINs, shut them down. You know, that's it. Send them a letter saying you are no longer authorized to do business as a nonprofit. Period. And at such point, after maybe some kind of vetting process where somebody comes in and audits what you're doing, and pays attention to where the money's going, who you're helping, and so on and so forth, maybe you'll get your 501c back. Otherwise, and I wouldn't even go to Congress. I just have Bessett get with the IRS and just start pulling numbers, and lock those individuals down. However many hundreds there are out there. I mean, I've got a list right here of 6 that are just associated with the crap that's going on in Minneapolis.
Right.
And it's interesting. The Catholic Relief Services, U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, Center for Renewing America, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, for God's sake, International Organization for Immigration, which is part of the UN.
It's amazing, David. None of those have anything to do with what the title says. They just sit back there and figure out what sounds good today. Create an NGO, give that the title so that people will think we're doing something, and then open up the windows and tell them to start pouring in the cash.
Yeah, exactly. And the American public, it's all for the children. We're helping the children. Well, that's the same crap that they told them in Minneapolis $9 billion ago, right? It's all for the children. Okay. But, the children need this Maserati, and this children need this house on the beach, and this children, come on.
It's amazing to me, David, if you've looked at some of the videos on TikTok of the Somalis, who are being arrested, or being, in court, making their court appearances. Their arrogancy, that is our right, and that is our money, and you give it back to me now. I'm kind of like, I'll give you something now. It won't be what you're looking for, but I'll give you something now.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, in Minneapolis, I'm sure the interesting is going to be there. It's probably going to go quiet here in a while, because most of that money that has been going into this not only goes into it, but comes back out and funds an awful lot of Democrat situations, representatives, so on and so forth. And that's where a lot of the campaign contributions come from, is, money in this store, you take your little bit, we need our little bit, so on and so forth. And that's why it's going to take somebody with a set of clackers to shut this down.
I agree.
Because
as you mentioned that, I was just on a briefing a few minutes ago before I came on your show, and Mayor Fry, you remember, who's been one of our biggest vocal critics.
Right.
I get it now. His wife, Susan, $250 million.
Yeah.
Yep. Of course they're going to cry about it and try to do everything they can to keep the feds out of it.
Sure.
I don't want that being exposed. But again, David, and I'm just portraying what I hear all across the country now. We had great hope. You've done a fantastic job of exposing it. When are you going to start holding them accountable? And that's what I keep telling the president. We appreciate so much what we are doing globally to free people from tyranny. And the tyranny that we're freeing them from is corruption. like Venezuela, Iran, and other places.
Right.
We're the most corrupt country in the world. I hate to say that, but it's true. We're the most corrupt country in the world.
Yeah.
So when are we going to dedicate the resources, all the resources necessary to freeing the American people from the tyranny of corruption? We have to. We have no choice. We won't survive if we don't, David.
No, if you sit there and look at this corruption, it's what we're seeing in the programs that Congress puts out there and doesn't oversee. It's just like the USAID. Musk uncovered millions of dollars that were going out the door to all kinds of different things overseas, and it was just a slush fund, just an absolute slush fund, and trying to shut it down. I don't even know that it's been completely shut down yet. I know Rubio's been trying to shut it down, but you see all of these activist judges stopping this and stopping that from happening. Christ, they can't even fire one of the governors on the Fed.
Yeah, and you see it carrying a step further than that, David. Then you've got Congress, who know good and well that's how I'm getting my little bit of into my account. I'm getting my percentage off of it. Congress takes a position. You can't stop it. We're the one that control the budget, and we put it in there. And you're going to continue to leave it in there because we don't really know for sure whether there's corruption or not. We have to investigate. You remember, Congress is good about that. We need to hold hearings, and we need to have some investigation of this matter. And in the meantime, until we do, whenever we decide to get around to it, we're the ones that control the budget. So we said we're going to send it to them that way. You don't have any choice. Of course, the president's taking a position. No, I'm the president of the United States. I'm the chief executive officer. You may put it in the budget, but I'm not going to spend it. What are you going to do about it? Then you have the judges come in and say, well, I'm ordering you. And then what does the president do? Well, no, I'm not going to accept your order. You're a judge. You're not the judge. And so it just continues to work its way up to the system. And we've got nothing but gridlock right now because of it. But we need to have people, David, that are willing to take those risks and those chances, willing to do things differently.
Well, yeah, we as an electorate, Mike, need to push the bar a lot higher on the people that we elect. And I don't really give a damn if they're Democrat or Republican. And I'll be the first one to admit that I was completely opposed to Fetterman, completely opposed. And as God is my witness, he's turned out to be one of the most common sense individuals that's sat in the Senate lately, right?
I would have to agree. Whatever happened to him when he first got elected in terms of the stroke, or whatever it was that occurred, certainly changed his perspective.
I don't, because I sit there and listen to him, and then I listen to some of the Republican individuals, and I'm going, what in the hell's wrong with you? And more importantly, what in the hell's wrong with the people that elected you? That's, to me, that's where the big issue is, which brings me to another point, and that's the rise of the DSA in this country. There's something amiss here when you have the socialists of America have now placed a mayor in one of the most important cities in the world. There's a socialist mayor now in Seattle. I don't know if they've done it yet in Los Angeles. It's incredible to me. The governor of Virginia completely is off the charts with stuff. I don't understand where these people are coming from that are voting for these. I don't know what they're not seeing.
I think it's twofold. I think there are some of those that are just doing it because of the fact they are so brainwashed from the ideology. You remember, we set the stage for this. We've allowed these foreign Middle Eastern countries to come in and create endowments and study programs in colleges that do nothing but preach about how horrible capitalism is. America's got to be taken down, etc. So you got these young people that are confused. They're wondering what in the world should we do. And then you've also got those who are using our own constitution against us. And what do I mean by that? We've got the Islamic jihadists. I'll call it out for what it is. We have a Muslim community that are trying to convince America. Now, that's religion, so you can't say anything about it. No, it's not religion. When you tell somebody you either believe what I believe, David, or I'm going to shoot you, that's not religion. That is ideology. And so let's get our terminology clear. We have allowed the Islamic ideology to begin to dominate this country and hide behind the religious framework. And they're expanding left and right, and we're doing nothing about it. If we allowed the Nazis to come in during World War II and establish camps all across America and try to express the benefit of fascism, etc., I mean, we wouldn't even conceive of that happening. But yet, the society we live in now, we're bringing in everybody in to undermine and destroy this country, and feeling like somehow we have an obligation to embrace that. David, it's
Right.
time we start embracing the truth, not this craziness that is being given political correctness that's been trying to be pushed down our throat for years.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's why I keep saying, the word accountability. And I like what you talked about the church. I think, quite frankly, and I think, with Charlie Kirk's assassination, I think the church has gained back some ground because of people starting to understand the religious conviction that Charlie had. And it's got a little bit of forward momentum right now. I would love to see the church take that forward momentum and really do something with it. And not be worried about building the number of people that come to your church or anything else, but actually talking about, the need for being spiritual, the need for bringing God back into everybody's lives, and what that would mean. It's remarkable to me. And I'm just as guilty as the next person and blaming the politicians for all of that. But over time, I've come to realize that it's not the politicians, it's us and our lack of holding them accountable, and our spirituality around it. And we're not doing our damn job. As an electorate, we're just not doing our job. It's as simple as that.
Saying, David, I take that back to the churches. You take a look at our history. People have asked me all the time, especially when I go overseas, how come America has a church on every corner? We had a church on every corner generations ago because they were small. You had a congregation that you espoused the truth to. People understood it and acted upon it. Then we got into this ideology that it was satanic, if you ask me, that you don't want a small church. You want a big one. You want one where they pay you $1 million to be the preacher. You want to have, of course, if you're going to do that, now you can't offend anybody. So let's just put preaching the truth.
Well, it's a business, right? They turned it. Yeah,
and that's what they did. And so you see all these small churches that are still standing, but very few people go to them because they went to a large congregation. They're disillusioned there because they're not being taught anything of truth or standing for anything. And so the churches have collapsed. And we've allowed that to happen. It's about time we start getting people that will come back and take the congregations, the small congregations, and determine, I'm not here to win your favor. I'm here to tell you what the truth is so that I can help you make decisions that will affect positively the rest of your life and eternity. I'm not here to get into popularity contest.
No. We need to establish a much bigger biblical view, not a world view, but a biblical view of things. And, LBJ is the one that put the C restriction on churches to not allow them to speak politically from the pulpit. And churches are just in fear of losing their tax status for standing up there and saying, I completely disagree with what we're doing here politically for this reason, and outline the biblical reasons for it and get on with it. They're in absolute fear of that. So they walk around the edges of the lake, right?
That's correct.
Because they're totally afraid to put their damn foot in the water. And what I believe are kids, the younger generation of children, young people in this country are looking for authenticity. They're looking for a Charlie Kirk that believes and can articulate what he believes to them. Not a bunch of BS, right?
You hit the nail on the head, David. They don't want any more hypocrites. We've had enough of them.
No, they're all over the place, Mike. And anyway, for the people listening, where can they find your information, Mike?
If they go to our website, that's nvdstusa.org. It's a charity, part of the government over there trying to...
don't worry about it. We love dogs here.
To guard the back door. But
There you go.
InvestUSA.org, it's a charity. They can get all the information. They can not only have the opportunity to support our first responders by making sure they have the bulletproof vest, the active shooter vest that they need, but all of these, in your show, all of these shows are listed on there. They can keep track of everything that's going on politically, everything that's happening. People ask and they say, why is Invest so involved? And I make it very simple. The reason why, David, is this. Everything that you and I are talking about ultimately falls down upon law enforcement. You have corrupt society. You have corrupt people who break laws, who hurt and harm citizens. It falls on law enforcement to have to enforce and try to fix that. There's no way we can do that. I love what you first said when we first started. Outside of the very hand of God, there's nothing we're going to be able to do to fix this situation. So we're his instruments, but God's going to have to lead this charge. And I know that he will lead the righteous charge, but we have to ask him to do so. Sometimes I wonder where our ask is at, David.
Yep, I do too. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure, Mike, having you on the show. And I want to thank those out there for listening to us. And until next time, remember to look upward and pray for guidance. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care, Mike.
Thank you. God bless. God bless America, David. I look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, my friend.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to more Clarity from Chaos shows on demand, go to clarityfromchaos.buzzsprout.com or send Dave an email at info@clarityfromchaos.com for information on previous shows. You can also listen to the show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Twitter, or Google Podcast. Until next time, please remember, it's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Be well, everyone.